My name is Contreras. I'm a poet, artist, and a human being. That's what it said on my most recent business card that I made for myself. They asked me to be here today and to talk about empathy, and I think we all know what empathy is. A Webster's dictionary definition is basically being able to understand the way someone feels, maybe by that shared experience, or I like to think by the ability of just trying that hard to understand, even if you've never had that experience. The majority of my life, I've been a writer. I'm 31 now and 17 years, so it is actually like a bigger percentage than how long I've been alive. Some of my experiences have been varied, but I feel like they've developed a supremely empathetic person, or somebody that prides himself on my empathetic nature. So without further ado, we're going to get into this thing. Here we go. I'll call him Jim. Partly because I don't remember his name, but I do remember his face, and it's empty just the same. Jim drops a 4-pack of high gravity, swinging a surly leg over one side of his 10-speed coming out the Nob Hill Walgreens. I'm on my way in, headed past when he diverts his attention to me, and I ask, "What were you drinking?" All along thinking that maybe it's not the best idea to add 4 cans to the one that just survived. Nevertheless, I head inside liquor department first for a 4-pack. It cost me all of $3.99, all the while justifying that it's 9 a.m. Time's not on his side. And in this heat, he's got a lot of gears to grind. Who knows how many his feet turned head over heels in the night prior. Peeled from the back of this huffy, high-gravity bike rider, I come out, plastic bag pendulum, and hand him what he didn't ask for, what I decided to buy. He can't believe his eyes. He says, "Thanks, brother." Extends a dingy palm from the sleeve of his fatigues. The other hand is simultaneously dropping 24-ounce cans into cargo pockets. It's 9 a.m. And maybe I'm not really helping, but I can't help it. Maybe it's in the way he didn't ask me for help, or in the way that he appreciated it, but most likely in the way that remembering his face spoke to me, but remembering his name didn't, because he's the same soldier. Only the name is different. Same man, different corner, same stuff, different day, until, of course, he had collected enough change for 96 ounces worth of a 10-speed swerve to somewhere safe. 72 ounces being sacrificed to asphalt, I heard him say, "That's great." And I couldn't help it. Couldn't ignore a man down without backup. Now 5 cans heavy in his bike pick back up, he rides away. And my gears start grinding about the man with a 10-speed and a green beret. 9 a.m. report on my eyelids reads, former Marine classified MIA. Reconnaissance mission of a different kind. Cigarettes, beer in city streets. Nightmares, self-medication in city heat under which we are all gears grinding. Some at slower paces. We're all soldiers with changing faces, dingy palms above the same boots with different laces, gears grinding. It's 9 a.m. A 72-ounce sacrifice made to a different day. Same stuff, Jim. A soldier with an empty face who called me brother. Backup arrived just in time. Bike picked back up right. He rides away. Pilling the delirium from my 9 a.m. eyelids, and my gears are still grinding. Some of you do know me, and some of you don't. Lots of you, I think, maybe don't, or I don't know you, in the sense of shaking your hand and seeing your face. So, good morning to you all. I got a peek at the list before you walked in, just so you know. So I spotted names I recognized, and then the rest I was like, cool, we get to meet each other. Over my years doing this thing, I've met a lot of people. So this is another person I just met over the years. Falling star, they know you not. Have yet to discover the earthquake of a man that lay somewhere between collarbone and fist. The boy with razor blades for fingertips, ready to cut this place open from cell door to window, they don't know. The storm they've set abrew. 15 arrested, mistreated, released. 16 arrested, released, beat. 17 arrested, charged, convicted. 18 still serving time, though you're not the one that did it, they know you not. The beautiful wound that has begun to spread and fester. When the time comes, they won't be able to lessen the odds from 1 to 1. Whoever decides to step inside that cell, by then, it'll be too late to figure out that all you needed to do was figure out who you were. Falling star, you know you not. Have yet to discover the earthquake of a man that lay somewhere between 8 cylinders of heart and lungs, a fiery mouth and an ass that wouldn't be overrun, and so now you sit, Mack truck heavy, yard-built beauty of a beast flexing muscles between push-ups and pick-up games of handball. Closed-circuit camera catches a pit bull showing, teeth face saying, try me. Try me. My house and everything in between you better ask about. Yeah, you shake my hand. We crack jokes, and I don't know you. But neither do you know you. So daily, we flip through pages of poetry and attempts to figure out the ticking that sets you up a time bomb ready to bloom. Beautiful. Falling star. You're an explosion of right gone wrong. Daily, you write songs, they say, listen, look. Watch me. Not with careful eyes, but with ones that care. Poems that talk about a father that was never there. About heroin run amok in the city of your veins until it left you on the corner broke and wishing on a star. Far from anything you ever considered yourself to be. To be or not to. That's the question. It remains unanswered. You remain afraid to write it in, and so we go on in a calamitous game of sink or swim as reality has its way of sinking in. I came into work on Monday and you were gone. Had decided to enterprise on the block and get paid instead of educated, and I can't blame you for resorting to the comforts of what you know. Falling star. You're now the star, fading into the distance like into memories. As you watch free cable TV, write your letters and take up space. I only hope you find a place within yourself that helps you to figure out the equation of what was lost and all the things that just don't add up. You, man-made masterpiece, ticking time bomb, just waiting to be released, just waiting to bloom. Growing up in my home, my dad's a Vietnam vet, 100% disabled PTSD veteran. And it was interesting and kind of a crazy ride. I didn't figure that out, or we didn't figure that out collectively as a family until I was 20 years old and already out of the house. So living with somebody that's dealing with PTSD and not being treated for that ailment or disease was an interesting childhood. So. But being very thankful that my dad came home is something I just hold on to. At the same time, I saw what that does to a person and how war, even if you come home, swallows people. And then working in the confines of a correctional facility, in and out at least for like the last 7 years, I've seen what that does to people. And growing up in the neighborhood I grew up in, I see neighborhoods that swallow people. And so this poem is for all of them. Orale. Dickies and Ben Davis. Mad Dogs and OE. Blurred vision at the bottom of a bottle. Crystal ball of the neighborhood persuasion where players go all in like life's a gamble when we got enough aces, jokers, and sleepies to keep the hands full. Hands clasped and put behind the head because Vato's got caught with a roach in the ashtray. And life in park. Cherries of the boys in blue blaring in the video background. A backdrop all too familiar to toddlers in nothing but diapers. Mothers in shambles. A letter in the mail and a baby boy on the way to central booking. Label us broken. Marginalized. Vatos on a slow roll. These are our Saturday nights. Life lived more in the rear view than in the driver's seat. Chavalitos turned dead men walking, smoking guns, living life on parole before we're 21. And this is what has become of us. Bodies to ash, dust to dust. Coffin sales up in the hood because an eye for an eye seems to be the buzz. Liquor sales up on the block because to deal with all this, hell, we may as well catch a buzz. Nothing but churches and liquor stores and neighborhoods seemingly made just for us. Seems too good to be true. Like, in fact, it was a government-funded project. Until, of course, they got tired of looking at the projects. Then they just built in, around, and pushed us out like tired memories. Sand between our fingertips, dirt beneath our shoes. Strike me up a tune, I'll sing you the barrio blues. Pinstripe stripe covered in tattoos. The story of me and you. Both sides of the tracks. Rewind it. Turn it up. Play it back. Play it backwards. No matter the spin, the story remains the same. Hands on the steering wheel, keys thrown out the window, dreams thrown out the window, dried up and dying on the curb. La vida on life support. Locura running wild without support. Our children made infamous on local nightly news reports. This is our story. Not tales from the crypt, but Crips and Bloods. East meets West, and there ain't no horse-drawn carriages. Just guns drawn by bald-headed teenage carriers, and the rest is history. Ask anyone. We've all got one in the family, one in state lockup, one in the cemetery, and one on the way. A mother or sister with one on the way. Thus is the cycle. Revolving like Saturday night pistons, life still idle, but still pushing RPMs, still pushing drugs, still pushed to the edge, only to be snapped back again, a life waiting to break. Hands on the steering wheel, a foot on the brake, license, registration, proof of insurance, a life in cuffs, a life in flux, a life in park. My life has been dedicated to art in Albuquerque, which is a beautiful thing to be able to say. Trying to figure out what made the most sense, and then I realized, like, my entire life I've been writing about this subject, and I just kind of needed to sit in it for a while. And you don't really realize, like, the impact of something or what it's going to do to you until you're, like, sitting right in it, right? And my example of that is obviously, I just told you my dad's a Vietnam vet and suffers. Primarily, I think a lot of times, I mean, he came back in one piece, but from what they call survivor guilt. And many of you probably know what that is. You may or may not. It's okay, the phone's ringing. But survivor guilt affects everybody, I think, over time. When you grow up in a home with somebody that isn't being treated for their ailment, and you continually hear the emotions they share with you, or don't, then over time you're affected by that situation. And I never really realized the impact of my dad being a Vietnam vet until I went to Washington, D.C. 3 years ago, or just short of 3 years ago, and visited the Vietnam Wall. And it was something I wasn't ready for, because I was all by myself. And in processing kind of like this survivor guilt by osmosis, I wrote this poem. It hit me long after the 2-mile trek to the monument. I was just in town for the day, and Mom figured it was something I should see. I didn't think it'd hit me like an emotional Mack truck. A roller coaster ride off my tear ducts. I could barely compose myself well enough to shakily hand the tour guide my chapbook. They allow you to leave things there, to stamp and seal letters. Never before have I witnessed the alphabet bear such heavy-hearted happenstance. Each engraving unique as the men that were more than just names. The simple combination of coded language that names are. Names only tell stories when people like me ask questions. Then names are answers. Ordered alphabetically and by expiration date. We the living are left to realize the weight of a war. I hold my own head in my hands, alone in a reflective sea of etched letters, feeling like I owe an apology for existing. All those children who would have been whispered into the wind of a war that carried away their fathers, and for others who were fathers, it was for them and my own that I left a piece of myself at that wall. Words from my own hands. On thin pieces of paper that lacked the permanence of granite, were my apology for existing, for breathing, a thank you, an offering of peace I hope be unto them. Had an artist written my father's name on that wall, in that chapter of history, I would be a tale untold. Artistry never owned. But my dad came home, and not in a box, but instead, sometimes held captive by memories that I think kept him there just the same. Standing there, I realized I'll never be the same. I was a dream that now has a name, a story told and written, a chapter finished. Sorry, I know I'm like kind of Debbie Downer. I write a lot from the heart, so about who I know and where I'm from, and family commonly pops up in that. You know, I was raised obviously by an amazing man. I have an incredible mother as well, who I say I don't write about a lot, but the reason I don't is because she's pretty much the reason I write every poem. So I mean, if I wasn't born, then obviously couldn't have written them, right? So every poem I write is about my mom. But I think about like being raised in a home, a two-parent household for that matter, working in schools for like the last 14 years and doing events at some of the city's charter schools and what folks like to call at-risk youth-centered institutions, which I think we're all at-risk people. I hate terms like that, but working at those schools and then like waiting around for parents to pick their kids up that never came, or giving kids rides home because nobody came, or whatever it may be, you really, like in my situation, and I have two brothers that I know feel the same way, start to realize how incredible your parents are, even if it's simply like showing up, right? Like at 31, you realize like the simple act of being present is a gift from a parent. And but they learned it somewhere, right? Like, I also don't think you just like wake up and you're born to be an amazing parent, right? Like that makes me very nervous about being a parent. But you learn it somewhere, and so sometimes you learn it from a teacher, sometimes you learn it from a grandparent, sometimes you learn it from a really great boss or friend. And I feel like in many ways my parents, because they lived with her and then otherwise like right next to her for so long, learned how to be like the strongest people in the world, because my grandmother pretty much was that example. She died, we lost my grandmother a couple years ago, but I wrote her this poem before she passed, and if you know people and love them and you're an artist, create art for them before they pass, not in their remembrance, then what's it good for? I mean, it still helps process, but I think they should see the product of that while they're still here. So I wrote this poem for her, and to close the show about empathy, I thought there was no better example of an empathetic person than my grandmother. So this will be the last one, but this poem's for her. And I'm excited because you're all like old enough, and that's not a slight to you. You're all old enough, though, to know the references in this poem. I do a lot of high schools, and everybody's just like, you guys don't even get it, man. Put the iPad down. All right, here we go. King me. Whose X's, whose O's? What's for lunch? Mork and Mindy replaced my everyday go-to show, and she comforted me the day I cried. The day I couldn't understand why the world would take away Laverne and Shirley. She had the answer, followed by a bologna and ketchup sandwich. She probably bought me some sort of plastic, forget about the bad morning kind of toy. Something from the grocery store shouldn't be buying worthless things aisle. King me. Scooby-Doo and afternoon cartoons. Every day between 7:30 and 2, it was just me and her. Grandma. The lady with legs for pillows in church. The lady with kisses for bruises and old wives' tale remedies every time we got hurt. Queen of the snack cake. My day in, day out, on-call taxi driver around town. King me. I think she meant to let me win. And now, I'm afraid to lose her. Because I can't imagine a world without her smile, her laughter, her bit of understanding. She's become my Laverne and Shirley. Security at the sight of her. A blue hair with a heart of gold. Titanium hip and blood pressure through the roof, still a hop and a step. Chasing great-grandchildren and raising them just like us. 20 years later, she still plays checkers, colors Dora the Explorer after breakfast, and serves Cartoon Networks for a tiny set of hands, eyes, and a mind that depends on her to be there. When she no longer is, I wonder, what will life be worth? I question life and how it works, how it leaves some broken, how some run long enough to shuffle new models off the assembly line, long enough to assemble new games of checkers in the living room, tic-tac-toe at the kitchen table with a ketchup sandwich. Why does life leave simply time for more questions and not always answers? And she'd say something like, because we're not supposed to worry so much. And that's why I love her. A lady who can laugh at herself, like a slapstick film trip. Drag strip shopping carts to the parking lot while doing the wave. It happened. Grandma. Queen of the snack cake. Collector of casino chips. Kind of. Donations off I-25 religiously. Church every Sunday and about 4 days of the week in between, faithfully. She always looked the same to me. Same from when pictures of when I was just a baby, because to me, she's timeless. Bifocals and a smile. Wrinkles on a face like the pages of journals I love enough to write in. Stories always interesting. Jokes, sometimes funny. Lungs, always heavy. And for the first time, I feel like I'm always one move away from losing. King me. Thank you guys. If you have more questions, come talk.